Okay, so can anyone tell me which chapter of Dave Ramsey's book he talks about credit?
Nobody's reading the book.
Well, we don't have.
Anyone?
In the videos.
We don't have it with us.
Nope.
No, no, thank you.
No?
Thank you, no love. I have the book, I can show it.
Okay.
The answer is
You're
no.
not gonna find it. You're not gonna find it.
You're
You're not gonna find it.
Okay, good to know.
And there's a reason for that, right? Because we know by now that Ramsey, he doesn't believe in debt. So, and credit is part of that, right?
Right.
So he does not have a chapter on credit in the book. So what is credit score?
Oh,
Any?
before there's two. There's credit score and credit report. They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
They're two different stuff.
Oh.
Anyone? Any? What do you think? Credit score. What is it?
Well, the number that they assign based on your history,
Mhm.
and the report is basically, they tell you why you tried to get
Mhm.
your,
Who
it tell you
you
your
are.
past, it tell you your past, what you
Yeah.
did, you know.
That's a
When
good.
you
Yeah,
shouldn't
that's a good
be
point.
asking for money.
The way to see the credit report is the exam,
Yes,
and the credit score is your grade.
Is your grade?
That's the way to see it. Credit report
It's so good.
is the exam.
The
If
exam,
you want to,
the test that you do.
if you're taking a test, this is you take the test over here, and the credit score is
That's
what
okay.
grade do you have in the
Grade.
exam that you.
Okay.
Yep. But everything that you said, Loida, it's true. It's a number given based on your past behavior, right? I usually define it as, it's a number that you get like criticized or judged throughout your life, right?
For real, for
Unfortunately, unfortunately. So why does, Ramsey, going back to Ramsey, he doesn't believe in it, and it's all because of the, his biblical beliefs, right? And there's a lot of scripture talking about debt and having, credit and not lending money. We've talked about we've mentioned a lot of these passage throughout our class, but some of them, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loved others has fulfilled the law. We've mentioned the first one here, he who is guarantor for a stranger will surely suffer for it, the borrower is a servant to the lender, and so on, right? And then why is there credit? What's the purpose of the credit?
To evaluate if you're a reliable person to pay back anything that you borrow.
That's exactly right. That's a format that the banks and lenders created to be able to know who they give their money to, right? By looking at your past history, as you mentioned earlier.
And the other one that they said, in quote, is to prevent any racist bias to the person, because it's a number. The person doing the decision, supposedly, is not have any racist bias against you to make decide, this is your number. That's not my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the reason that they created the number. Most likely because before the number, the lender, the bank, is the one that made the decision.
Yeah.
They said that one is to prevent any racist bias against anyone.
Yeah. So although this is not a credit class, right, we focus on getting out of debt. We do leverage credit, so that's why we want to go over at least the basics so that you have better understanding on how the credit score is calculated and how you can
What you do and what not to do.
what to do and what not to do. Okay. So here we go. So what is a credit score? We already mentioned it's a 3-digit number, and it represents the consumer's creditworthiness. And what are those past behaviors that determine those scores? Past behaviors, so number of accounts, kinds of debts, hard inquiries, utilization, and the payment history. And who determines that? Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
And before we go, for the last in the last survey, what do you think is a good credit score per the banks? That's the minimum you have to have.
75? 750.
They say that the right now, if it's below 580, it's really bad. 580 to 710 is not that bad. The average in America is 710 to 720. That's the average. Everything's over 720, you're over above the average. That's the number right now in the States.
I have a question. Do you guys know if this is like a state thing or it's nationally?
That one was national.
National.
That one was national. That all three states come together. They always do like a big, like survey at the end of each year. That's for the 2023 numbers.
No, not the average, but it's not like my credit score can be used in anywhere in the United States, right? It's not based in different
Oh,
laws.
yeah.
No, that one's because there's an act that was signed. The credit card become because of the act.
Oh,
That
okay.
that's a federal stuff because that one
Federal.
because there were a lot of people saying that the bank were doing a lot of racial decisions.
Oh.
They create an act and that one the credit score come to be. It's because this is a federal stuff.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So building your credit score. We have some facts here. So anyone remembers the year that Econ score came out?
Says the girl that wasn't even born.
Right? Which reminds me, I'm gonna give credit, Charlie, he's an instructor here, he put together this last year, so he put this here. He did a great job, he's not with us this semester, but he did a great job putting this together. But anyone remembers Beacon? This is the first time. 1989 was when credit came out. The first credit score came out commercially. So when it started, it was for commercial purposes. So prior to that, business credit report existed, but used by banks for only for business lending. And then here says, can you truly know what your credit score is? We're gonna get into that. And here's a question. If applying for a car loan, which credit bureau are banks going to use?
They all use different ones, don't they?
All three? What did you say?
They go different ones.
They go to
Different.
different ones. Yes. So we are applying for a car loan. It depends on the bank. They can choose. So they can pull all three. They can pull just one. But for a mortgage, on the other hand, because you would be acquiring an asset with higher risk, they do pull all three of them. Okay. So they determine what they're gonna pull essentially. But for smaller, when you're trying to acquire like smaller assets like car, they usually do only one. Not all three of them. And it's up to whoever the dealership or the lender is to determine that. The lender, they determine that. So yes, although it could be used all three of them, most likely they would only be using one, and then all three for like higher risk assets. Okay, so how is it calculated? So here are the factors that impact the credit score.
I want you to give a percentage.
Yeah. Anyone has an idea of what percentage in terms of weight into the formula these are? So let's say, payment history, any idea of how much it weights in that formula?
That should be the biggest, right?
The highest.
I'll
Yeah,
say
the
probably the
highest.
highest
They wanna make
one.
sure that you're able to pay, and you've been paying the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Payment history is 35% of the weighted average.
So that's the highest one then, right?
Yep.
And that's what I thought.
Total debt of how much you think is your in the formula for the weighted average?
Maybe 10?
30%.
Oh, wow. 30. Oh, wow.
Length of your credit history.
So it's dropping.
So we already know we have 65% just between the first two, right?
This one, length 15, then your new and type of credit, both of those two are 10%.
So the two highest ones would be, yeah, then
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
35,
sense,
30, 15, 10, 10. And that gives you the 100% of the weighted average.
So just looking at that and knowing the weight, you already have an idea what you need to be doing, right? If you wanna get better in your score, right? First two, biggest weight. So, the first one, payment history, 35%. It includes whether you pay your bills on time. It takes into account how many like late payments you had or how late they were. So it does make a difference if you do pay late. It makes a difference if you pay 1 week late versus 1 month or 2 late. It does make a difference in your.
What about paying early?
No, paying early, you should be fine. It helps decrease, right, the debt. So it helps increase your score.
So what about if you owe, let's say your credit card, they owe you because you overpaid, and you do it all the time.
Wait, say that again, sorry?
So you do it on purpose and you overpay the credit card, so if they owe you instead, you owe them.
Mhm.
Does that reflect and say you were doing better?
Uh,
No, but you know what
but
I'm,
if
you know
you
what
need any
I'm coming.
money, I can lend you some.
Yeah.
But,
No, I don't think it works when you overpaid.
But-
If they just look at it, you're paid in, right? They
No,
just
I
look
was
at
gonna
you
say,
paid
but they
in.
don't tell you, oh, yeah, you
No, they don't give you, they don't give you extra points
They
for,
say he's a good boy.
they don't give you
That's
extra
fine,
points for
that's fine.
overpaying.
I accidentally one month overpaid on my credit card and they sent me the difference back. They
Yep.
sent me a
It
check
doesn't
for the
change your
difference.
credit score.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
It
Just
doesn't
look
give
at-
you an A plus.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
The second one is the length of the credit history. That's the longer you have the
Not that, oh.
total debt. That's how much your utilization. You know what is utilization?
On
When
the
you
credit,
see-
on the credit cards?
When you have your credit card,
Oh,
it tell you
the
how
amount that
much.
you use, how much you use of that total and the,
Mhm.
Yeah, but they give you anything below 30% is good to your credit score. If you pass your utilization over 30%, your credit score start going down. That means you have to know how much credit they gave you. If you over 30% of your number, your credit score starts going down.
So then, if you're paying 30% and lower, then you're in a good standing, but is there something that makes it a little better, let's say 10%?
If you no, that means let's, for example, the utilization. Let's say you have a credit card. They tell you have $10,000. If you're in $3,000 or less of in the end of each month, your credit score is going to be good. Below 3,000, you're going to go your credit score go up.
Yeah.
If you go above the $3,000, your credit score start going down.
Yep.
The break-even point is the 30%. 30% that means you're in good niche, but the credit score doesn't have any effect. But below or over 30%, that's when your credit score go up and down.
Yep. So here you can see the utilization, simple, here, how much you owe versus how much you have available in credit, okay? So if you owe $5,000 out of $10,000, that's your percentage, right? That would be the percentage.
Going back to what he asked about overpaid, the gentleman in the middle said they sent it back to him. We have a credit card with Advent Health, we also have a checking account there. And cause every time I used it, I overpaid, and they took that money and put it back in my checking. Cause they don't wanna have a credit card with a credit balance on it. And so they took the money and put it back in my checking, and brought the card back to zero.
Third one, length of the credit history. That's, longer credit histories are considered less risky as there is more data to determine the payment history. So, example of this, that's why, a lot of people say, when you pay off a credit card, don't close it, right? Because it will decrease your
If it's your longest one.
If it's the credit card you've had the longest, it would decrease your score because that one is giving you the credit history.
That's like normally when you pay your mortgage, a lot of people, if I pay my mortgage, but my credit score went down. Because for most people, the mortgage is the longest debt in the credit report. And when they pay it,
Yeah.
you lose that history. That's normally when you see you pay your mortgage, you have a hit.
Yeah.
Your credit score goes down.
Yeah.
It's because normally when you pay your mortgage, your longest one.
Does it recover? I mean.
Yeah,
It
it
does
recovers.
recovers.
It recovers, but if you see your credit score quickly after you pay your mortgage, you're going to see your credit
People
score go.
normally get upset.
Yeah, honestly, I would be very happy to say I pay my mortgage.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the
I
reason.
don't mind if the credit score went down because I just pay off my mortgage, right?
Right.
But to your point, it does recover.
Well, I kind of disagree. This happened to me yesterday.
Mhm.
So I had real good credit at one time, I'd say a couple of years ago, and a lot of things, took a toll. But it's just kind of sad that you do excellent for so many years, and then all of a sudden they ding you with one messed up. And then they hold you to that. I think it's 7 years or whatever.
7
it was.
years.
Depending on what.
But not only that, I stopped using my credit cards, and I had excess. So yesterday I go to Home Depot, perfect example, and I get my credit card. My credit card had $20,000. So I go put it in. I'm gonna rent a van or one of their pieces of equipment, and I haven't used it for I don't know how long. And guess what? See, they canceled my credit card. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I had $20,000 credit, and now they're to say this. So they said it's no good.
Just because of the history. Because
Yeah.
that's the reason Dave Ramsey does not like credit score.
Yeah.
Because to have a credit score, you have to live in a debt culture.
Also,
That's if you don't have any debt, you don't have any,
Yeah,
any
also-
report. You don't have a report, you don't have a score.
also when you have credit cards, if you don't use it,
They close it.
they close it out. The bank close it out at some point. So that's why sometimes, even though you paid off your credit balance, it's good to maybe once every year just use it, pay it off again. But it's just use it so that they know that you're using it.
But that's if you're
Because
playing the
otherwise-
game of the credit score, the score.
Correct.
Because otherwise they do close it. The bank close it out if there's whatever they determine the time frame is. They say if this person doesn't use it by X date, it's just gonna be canceled.
I
So
was
that's
just sad.
so
I
that's
feel
just
like-
the bank. It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to do anything with your credit score. if
I
that
was
makes
just
sense.
sad that, I said I had such a large amount, well, cut me down.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
Yeah.
you haven't done it, I'm gonna put you 10,000.
Yeah.
You-
5,000 and so on.
I had so I had 4 credit cards at one point, which was one too many. And I had credit one, which I don't recommend anybody get credit one because every month they charge you $8 no matter if you use the card or not. So I was just paying $8 because I put the card away. I paid it off and I put it in a drawer. I didn't use it, but every month I still had to pay like $8, and I wasn't even using the card. So I closed that one. My credit score did go down because of that, but I didn't want.
But normally you
to
can
keep
go
paying.
up if you start making your payment. But that's the reason and sometimes I recommend if you're not playing the credit score game, don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
That only good if you play the credit score game.
I have a question. So, when it comes to utilization, right? If you have credit cards that you do not use, does that credit that you have on those credit cards still count for utilization?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my follow-up question is, if you don't use it and they close it, can that impact your credit score?
Yes. If you see the formula over here, if you do the available reduce, it's going to reduce your ratio over here because now this is less.
Yes.
Yep.
When
So,
you're
if you tie it together, guys, that means that even if you are really credit worthy and you're paying off your credit cards, but you need that credit score for a certain reason, maybe you're going to apply for a mortgage, but all of a sudden you get the surprise of they close out your credit card because you haven't used it. Now your utilization takes a hit and your credit score dips for something that you didn't even do. That's the game. That's why they want you to have active credit cards so that you're in the debt culture. You see how society kind of trains us towards, I need to use these credit cards, and they're hoping, which statistically it's accurate, that you don't pay off that balance.
In this formula, let's say you have the $10,000 credit, but instead of $10,000, now you only have $7,000. We have the same number here. Utilization is going to go up. that make your credit score go down.
Okay.
So in his case, it will, if you wanna build your credit or keep it not to go down, it will be worth it to just to pay the $8 just to keep it.
That's only if you're playing,
you're playing.
playing the credit score.
Like if you want to buy a house and you wanna build.
That's
your
if
credit.
you're playing the credit score game. Now, we don't recommend, but that's only playing.
And only if it makes sense, right? Because there's some credit cards that you have like big fees throughout the year. If it doesn't make sense,
Mhm.
but you need to understand this, what's gonna do with your credit, right? So just do the math very quick and make that determination. When you're looking at this formula, if you have 4 credit cards, they all add up to this formula for the utilization. So they don't look at it as necessarily each individual ones, but what's your total owe versus the total available for all your cards or all your debts, okay? So you can do the math and determine how it's gonna affect your utilization. However, keep in mind, the ones with bigger weight are payment history and that owe. So just by following those 2 principles alone, you should be able to get your score back up.
And always remember, this is risk.
Mm-hmm.
You guys going to talk about that?
You can go ahead.
No.
You
It's
can
part
go
of
ahead.
the class, right? That we always remind you guys, know yourself.
Okay.
You know, because a lot of people, they get in big trouble because they wanna play the credit score, game. And I had a lady another day that she's like, you know, they sent me this card and I was thinking of applying just in case.
Yep.
But then when you look, you know, her history and everything, I'm like, why? Are you planning on buying anything? She's like, no. I'm like, so why is this important for you? Why are you getting caught up on that? Why, you know, she needs to take care of other stuff. So we just need to keep in mind those things, what is really important, the reason, and are you really going to use that for something in the future, so you can get in risk of getting that, and you know, choosing, like he said, is another thing, a lot of those credit cards, they have fees, so.
We discussed that, last week, when we were doing, I think it was $10, so I went to the bank. So they were charging me, for a service fee at, the checking, and I forgot, so it was $10 and $10. I've been paying that since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I'm 59.
Wow.
So we did the math, so that's $20 every single month that I was giving away
Wow.
for something that they're saying.
Yep.
So let's say if I wanted a certified check, I think you pay $5. If you don't, they'll charge you $10.
Yep.
But then they charge you $10 every month just to have that in case you do need it that you never use it. So there's a lot of things that are sitting and you don't even know.
I know.
Like in your case, the $8, mine was 20.
And then how many times you gonna use what they're offering?
So
Yeah.
so they charge you $10 and they only allow you to use it 5 times a year if you do use it.
Yeah,
But if you and then I used it maybe once and since I was 59 years old. So
Yeah.
How much did we calculate they charged you total over the?
It was $10,000 and something dollars or in that period of time, I believe it was. If I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
like, that's available, the available? you mean?
For them just doing
No,
the
for the
favors,
fees.
just
Oh,
for
the
the fees.
fees.
Yeah, how much
Yeah.
they ate them on fees.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, if this is courtesy. The
Mhm.
courtesy, we're gonna charge you $10 for
Yeah.
doing the courtesy. That you're not gonna utilize.
Yep.
And you don't know. There's a lot more stuff that I learned so much from you guys, you don't even know. That's what I'm saying on time. I'm going back a third time.
Yep.
But it's interesting.
No, yeah, and that's why I say, you know, probably, it does make sense probably, right, to cancel that one that you were paying, because you don't need it anymore, you're done with it, probably does make sense, you may get a lower
It's just
score
for a period of time.
temporarily, but it will eventually go up again, right? So, then the last 2 very quickly before we move on, new or recent credit, and then the type. So new ones, it's, you know, when you get just a new account, and then credit mix, the different types. So having like variety is 10% each.
And the other thing, like one late payment after you're going to, let's say you have the due date the day after, they're going, it's 7 years in your report. But technically, if it's a small amount, credit report is not for them more
Yeah.
hassle than anything. They give you a 30-day like a grace period to pay it. That means if you pay in those 30 days, per remember, if you have during that grace period, you have to make 2 payments. If not, you're going to be behind.
Catch up.
You're always going to be behind. If you miss a deadline, a due date, you have to pay twice. That way, if not, you're always going to be in the cycle, be late. But if it's a late payment in your mortgage or student loan, automatically like 7 years. Mortgage and student loan, you have to pay on time every time. They don't give any grace period in that one.
Yeah.
I just had a quick thing to say. I don't, if any of you guys ever decide to have kids, don't name them after yourself. I'm a junior, and like last year I went to check my credit history and found that I was in collections for a couple things. And I looked into them and they weren't mine, they were my
Yeah.
dad's. And that was
We're
like,
gonna talk about that
Okay,
in a little
perfect.
bit. Yep.
That's good.
don't name your kids after you.
For you,
Oh my,
for
oh,
you,
I have that reaction, oh my god, that's awful.
for your information,
Yeah.
35% of your credit report, 35% of people every year send that the credit report is incorrect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like 35%,
For
and
things like that.
and some years is 50%.
Mm.
That the credit the credit report can be like 50% wrong for the half of the population in the U.S.
The other question is, and I don't know, going back to the bank, I noticed it's a 35 service fee that I've been getting, they fix it and we keep fighting and we're going over this. So let's say you said something very important, so let's say my payment due is on the 17th, whatever that might be, that amount. But I decide to pay it early, sometimes like I used to do, like if I have my payment due on the 30th, I pay it on the 15th. And so I split it into 15th and the 30th. So usually I'm 2 weeks ahead of the ball game. I've been doing that for a lot of years. But my question is, I think I just noticed in one of them, that sometimes I pay, and then it's like, and I believe the guy told me, I cannot do it before this time because it's not gonna give me the credit,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
It's the state, you're gonna show that, right? The next one? Yeah,
But-
she's going to talk. No. Cause that's important too.
That's a good
Is
question.
the due date.
Well,
It's
because
not
you
the
can
due date,
say-
it's the statement date.
It's a
Yeah.
statement date.
Because I go there and I'm like, okay, I make the payment, the next time I'm getting, wait a minute, I just made my payment.
Yeah.
And then I think the guy said, well, you didn't do it between here.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I have a window? So that means I already made my payment today, and then now I made another extra payment because I had it.
But you
But then
have
now,
to see your statement
okay.
date, not the
Yeah.
due date.
Yes, so that's like the credit cards, when we talk about in previous class, right, if you use it, pay it off quickly, it's usually making sure that you pay it off before your cycle closes, before the close of your statement, because the day of when it closes versus the due date of the payment is different. So if you pay it by the due date, you're already gonna have interest included in there. So you wanna make sure that you pay it off before the cycle closes, before, the statement, is closed, so that you don't get hit with interest, in this example, with the credit card. Similar goes with any other payment, right? If, just making sure that you pay it off by when it closes the cycle and not when the actual payment is due.
Due date and the closing are not the same thing.
Your
Doesn't count.
statements will show that, it will be different for any account that you have.
The closing and the due date are two different. Due date is when you have to pay it. The closing time, this is for when, like when you see your bill of electricity, from this month to this month. It's two different stuff.
Yep. So, the other thing is, when it comes to paying on time, let me, over here. Like he was saying, just pay it off quickly. If you have a late payment, just pay it off quickly and make sure that, you essentially in 1 month would need to like make a double payment so that you can catch up with the next month, right? So like if you're late this month, then your next month is probably gonna be due soon, so make sure you make double payment essentially so that you can catch up. Otherwise, you're gonna be kinda behind, like, for 1 month. Does that make sense?
But remember, mortgage and student loan,
Yeah, that's
you don't have any,
another.
that's no great, there's no grace period in those two.
And
We just thought was a good price
Yeah, we
for
talked about
this is
that.
right now, but in the average, if you're between 710 and 720, you're in the average in the US.
So,
Then how to increase your credit score, then to have the most weight if you pay everything on time, you're going to increase your credit score because that's 35% of your weighted average. And that means if you have all your credit card, start paying everything on time, mainly due date, it's going to go really quickly. The second one is to lower your authorization. That's the second one that also make you, those two, you work with those two, your credit score going to up because between those two is 65% of your weighted average.
Yeah. So anything that is less than 10% or less of your utilization will give you the most amount of points.
Okay.
30% would be you get some. You're not gonna get the most, but you get some. That's why a lot of times you may hear, just keep your credit cards under 30% or keep it under 10%. What they mean when they say that is your utilization, right? If you keep it under 10, you're gonna get more points out of it. If you keep it under 30, it's still good. And then once it hits 50% or more, that's when it's gonna start hurting your score a lot more.
Just in case for a bank, if you're over 51%, they consider your credit card maxed out. Even if you have, for them, everything over 50%, that's for them already, you're maxing out your credit card.
Interesting.
Just in
Then-
case.
then-
You're risky for it.
If there's one thing that we would really want you to take with you with this is, whatever you do not change a number. Chase the principle. Follow the principles, right? Going back to the factors that affect the formula or the score, payment history and just follow the principles. If you follow the principle, the score will be good. Just follow the principle. Don't get caught up in like, oh, I want this number. No. Follow the principle and you will get there in the number. Okay?
And then the next one, is to use your credit card account. That's important. And then you have access to a free credit report. People think that you have to pay. If you want your credit score, you have to pay. The number that one is not for free. That one you have to pay for one of those three. If you want your report, your history, that's free once every 12 months. For the credit score, you have to pay to be able to have it, if you want.
So for the credit score, will it be all three of them or be individually?
All
Like
three,
experience?
no, all three have different number because they have different formula.
So when you go there, you'll pay for the three entities?
No, you have to pay. I go to each one and pay to get the quality of your credit score with each one.
Yeah, because they could be all different.
Yes,
regardless.
and you need all. If you want each one, you have to pay individually. If you want the score, but that one is not free. That one you have to pay.
And the annual report that is this individually too, right? For all three of them that you requested?
Yes, and that one's free.
Okay.
All three have to give you one report for free. That's part of the act.
I think it's just one report.
And
I
half
think.
of but all three can give. You can go all three.
And then just quickly, so going back to the report,
Where you were saying that you have that information.
Yeah.
The credit card, like the credit report agency, are the one responsible to have the correct information. If there's something wrong, you have to we always recommend to write a letter, because when you write a letter and you certify that mail, they only have 30 days to answer it. If they don't answer in 30 days, any dispute is on them.
they need to remove it from the
They
report.
have to remove the report. Always write a letter, because with a letter, if you have to do a certified mail, pay the extra money, because that way you have the evidence. You have 30 days to answer me. You know what I'm saying? In 30 days, you're the one that's responsible to this one. It's not you responsible, they're responsible.
Yeah. So they're the ones responsible to prove to you
That you owe that money.
that you owe that money, or whatever you may have in the report. They're the ones to prove you that, not the other way around. Okay, so keep that in mind. Like you mentioned before, 35% of reports usually
Are
have
wrong.
errors every year. So that's why it's important to go back to that annual credit report, pull it every year. It's free once every year. Pull it every year and review it. common mistakes, like you mentioned. If your name is John Smith, chances are your report is wrong, right? Social security number, maybe someone put the last number, like a typo, last number, they type it wrong and it hit your report. You know, human errors, right? Human errors. Mixed file, names, account that does not belong to you, invalid account numbers, duplicate amounts, accounts, inaccurate payment status, even payments may reflect incorrectly in your report. So if you think you've been on top of it and paying everything on time and you see that something is not showing up correctly, that's also something that could be corrected. Incorrect account balances and outdated negative items, okay? So every year, pull the report, review it, make sure it's you. Check against all your accounts. Does the account number of, let's say, your mortgage, your car loan, match what the report says? Those type of things, review it every year. If you do have that question, there's a sample dispute letters, online. You can do that letter, mail it, and then like he mentioned, after X amount of days, if they don't respond back to you, they automatically need to remove it from your report.
But just in case they don't remove it quickly.
Yeah, it takes time.
It takes time and time consuming.
They could be pretty rude.
Huh?
They could be pretty rude.
Yes, and they can become really slow to move stuff out of your report. This is the main three agency. Something I always try to remember to, if you're not going to buy a house or
You don't
loan,
need your credit.
always freeze your credit. That's free, and that prevents someone from stealing your identity. If you're not frozen, anyone can use it. If they stole it, but you can go to all three. You need to write create an account in each three, and then you say freeze my credit score report, and that way no one can steal your identity.
It takes like a minute or two to go on each website and do that, and that way no one can do like any inquiries.
So I got one
Using
question.
info.
In the other classes, if I'm not mistaken, you said you got other, credit people that look into it and then and maybe I'm saying it wrong. And then they go by what they say, you can still freeze it, or it's only them three people that we?
No, these three companies in here in the US are the ones that you have to froze your credit. Because
Yeah.
if not, someone can steal your identity and make mortgage and bank, like happened to me, because I forget to froze it. But now I always, all my accounts are freeze. That way, if you need to buy a house or something, then you go, please unfroze all mine, and you can unfroze it.
Yep.
But you need to fix everything, that way you prevent anyone to steal your identity.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
if
it.
you're gonna use it, it only takes a few seconds to go on the website and do the unfreeze, and it's quick. So it's not like you have to wait or anything. If you're trying to get a car, a mortgage or anything, it's quick. You go on, you do unfreeze, you log in, unfreeze, and that's it.
With cybersecurity advice, never use the same password. If you use the same password, a hacker can hack your account in less than 3 minutes.
It's very simple. Live life nowadays.
Just never use if you have the same password
I'm
for
joking.
everything,
It's very simple.
that's a
to
big
live
no-no
life.
for
So
cybersecurity.
many things that you have to take care of it.
So I got a question, like my job, every 6 months we gotta redo a password.
It's not.
So what I do is like, let's say Angel Diaz, number 1. Then the next month I go Angel Diaz number 2. Cause there's so many times, like for my job going 15 years, you know how many times I had to change the password?
But you have to, for personal stuff, never use the same password. Use a complicated one, like Apple give you a suggestion password. Use the suggested password and save it somewhere, because if not, a hacker can steal your information in less than 3 minutes. I saw it live. We have a training in cybersecurity. A hacker went and hacked the account of one of our BP in less than 3 minutes and have even a mortgage and everything in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because he used the same password for everything.
Right.
Never use your same password. Change it. That's a cybersecurity advice of the day.
Any other questions? I know this was a lot of information and.
No, that's really helpful.
A lot of
Are we going to
information.
stay after class? Well, no, to dismiss everyone to church, but if you need more questions, we're going to stay here, and we're going to answer any question.
Before,
Where's our, oh, you can finish, no.
But I'm going to ask Dr. Cora
Oh, wait.
to dismiss her and pray, and then we can answer questions because people that want to go to church, and we can go to church.
Father, we bless your name. We thank you for your spoken word. God, we thank you because we will be attentive, my God. You have spoken to us, my God. We thank you because we're going to apply. And Father God, we're giving you a yet praise because we've already won. Father, we bless you. We give you praises, we give you honor, we give you glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Just want to say that before they join the group, I taught all of this, and I taught every class, freeze your credit, and mine was wide open and frozen. And I'm teaching the class to freeze your credit, and mine is wide open and frozen. And then a couple of years ago, somebody zapped me one Friday night on my computer, and an email came in, did you open a new account? Let me fast forward. Somebody opened an account at Home Depot and charged $5,000 in tools, and another account for $2,000. They charged furniture somewhere $7,000 within the space of less than an hour. I got zapped. It's frozen now. I freeze it immediately after that.
I have to do the same thing.
So, freeze your credit.
Do you have a question?
yeah, just questions I think are relevant for the class. So, when it comes to utilization, right, and we're playing this numbers game, number one, you recommended not to play the numbers game, chase the principles. But if I look at it from amount of debt that I have owed versus available, do you recommend increasing your available credit to give you more utilization, therefore to improve your credit score?
That depends the person. If you can lower your, it's the same thing here. If you lower your amount owed, like with the death note, your utilization is going to go up.
Yes.
Like my first advice to use the death note to pay your amount you owe, because you do this one has to going to go down. Sorry.
So instead of increasing my available credit, I should
Pay.
focus on paying off the debt
Pay.
that I owe, right?
Yes, you pay here, you pay here. If you use the death note that we speak in class, be aggressive in paying your debt as a gazelle attitude. If you pay whatever you owe, this is going to go down here.
And the reason for that is because if I am trying to chase the number and I'm like, well, I'll just increase the amount of credit that I have available for me, the vulnerability is that I'm going to use that credit and get
It's a
myself in
risk.
more
It's
debt.
a higher
right?
And just and also there's some bank that does not like you to increase how much you have, because if you have more available, for them you're more risky. But I mean you can be closer to make more, having more debt in the long run.
Yep.
That there's some bank when you're doing the mortgage, they say how much is your credit available. Let's say you're going to go for a mortgage. Here you have 30,000 and increase to 40,000 only to make this one better. But that 10,000 increase for the bank, you're more risky.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
Thank
reason the most important thing. Say this one stay the same and decrease this one.
Exactly.
And that one's the most wise one.
So my last question for you, when it comes to improving my credit score or improving my debt situation, do you recommend using credit improvement or debt consolidation companies, and why?
For me, that depends the person. That's like what we always see. We need to see all the numbers. Depending the numbers, that's what I'm going to, for each person individually.
What was the question?
Do you recommend using credit improvement or debt consolidation companies, and why?
But for me, that depends. Each case is individually. You have to throw the numbers and verify which one. But whatever method you choose, you have to stick to it. Because if you consolidate your debt, you still have the debt. You have to be out there in the attitude to pay it down.
Yeah. I was gonna add to your first question here about, oh, what if I just increase my
Available.
the available? That also is gonna be an issue if, let's say, you wanna acquire a mortgage in the future, right? Then your ability to acquire a mortgage is also gonna be impacted. So maybe you're like, oh, I just wanna increase my credit score to get a home, but because you already have a X amount of money available, it's already at risk. The lenders are not gonna give you as much when it comes to your mortgage. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
In number,
Okay?
let's say you have here $10,000.
Qualify for less.
Right, so you're gonna qualify essentially for less.
Wow.
But-
So just think about those things. That's why we say focus on paying off what you owe. Because you will get there on your score and your ability in the future. If in this example you wanna acquire a mortgage, you would qualify for more.
But here, let's say you have 10,000, you increase this up to 20,000. That means you have 10,000 more, $10,000 more that you can owe in the future. And for the bank, that's a risk because you can use it.
So the credit card that I was talking about, like with the 20,000, even though it looked real good, wow, I could go there and buy anything that I want with 20,000. It was working against me, then, right?
That depends if it's a new one that you want. That depends what the fact and everything. Remember, that's if it's an old credit card, you're fine. If it's a new one, that goes against you.
Okay.
I got you.
So, cause now that you mentioned that, like, I have only 2 credit cards and the bank, I didn't request the line to be
They
increased.
increase it.
They increased it, so.
Yeah, because you're paying on time.
Yeah, but you could call and tell them to put it back.
Oh,
But that one does affect you less because that bank did it for you.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You need to open a new account.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's the bank. It's when you
I
open a
had
new.
it for a long time.
Yeah, but the same way they increase it, you could request, so like, what if you have all your debts paid off, right? If you have your credit card paid off, you have, your utilization is fine, right? They increase your available, if you don't owe, you don't owe, right? So your utilization is still gonna be good. So in that case, I would probably be like, I'm just gonna call the bank, tell them to decrease it, because what if I wanna buy a house next year? Then I don't want that credit already to be out there, right? Cause it's gonna affect my ability in the future.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so those part I had that many years ago just to improve my credit.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that.
So increasing your, what's available, it could help in the short term, but in the long run, it's not necessarily gonna do that.
And back to the topic of like using companies to improve your debt or improve your credit score, they're doing that for the sake of you not doing it yourself. When you can take these actions, if you educate yourself to do that, and you're not having to pay fees to that company for doing it for you.
Mhm.
And
It
also
can add
when
up
you,
into a lot.
Yes.
and when you take consolidation, there's always a fee also to move your debt from one to the other one. When you, there's a fee also in that movement that you have to pay twice. You have to pay a fee to the company that's helping you, if you're like using a company, and then a fee to the bank of moving all your debt to only one.
Yes.
Like that's why you have to make all your numbers.
Yeah.
So I noticed, and I like the idea that you have the website that has the letters that you can count, do this, but I got a particular issue. I was doing foster care quite a few years ago, and, when I was doing that incident, I was 5 kids that I was taking care of. So I went to Universal Studios on one day, and, they were celebrating their baby because they were addicted to fentanyl. It was the first year old that it lived. So I went and took them to Universal Studios. When we go in there, my 3 credit cards got compromised, 3 different banks. So the next morning I go to Walmart, I had ordered a cake, I was gonna go pay for it, my credit card didn't work. I didn't think nothing about it, because we left like, we went to the movies and had a lot of fun and, you know, just hanging around, a kid's fun day. So I go get the cake, my credit card don't work, so I said, get another one, it doesn't work. All my 3 credit cards got canceled. So what happened is I had gone to Colorado and I came back. So supposedly I stopped using it at 10 something, and then I was in Colorado using it somewhere at that time for an escort service, which was pretty interesting. And then I was back in Orlando at before 7 o'clock when I went to get the cake. So when I'm talking, the 2 banks, no issues, they fixed my credit cards. 53rd Bank decided not to, so they put me in a collector and agency. We going back and forth, and that's the one I was going to. How do you write a letter? What do you say about this?
You need to use the letter over there and show that support that you were here. You have to show that you're here and that's not yours.
Well, they already sent it to a collection agency.
Or even down.
They can correct it.
They have to correct it.
Okay, yeah, cause I was kinda confused, I said, what do I write or what do I do?
Yeah, but
That letter have the sample of what you need to.
use a dispute letter sample, like we mentioned, if they don't respond by X amount of days, they have to take it off your report. chances are they will because they're short on staff. So don't quote me like that, don't trust me on
Okay,
this,
I got
but that's why you do it with letter, right? You do it letter, and but yeah, we would recommend do letter, and then go from there. Cause otherwise you're just gonna be on calls all the
Oh,
time.
but
But
that's
they
what
should
I'm
be
saying.
able to fix it,
Um,
they should be able
I
to fix
called them,
it.
I said, listen, and they're
And
so
to
rude,
prevent
they
someone
don't
to
pay
steal,
for it. I'm like,
and to
wait,
prevent
bro.
someone to steal your identity, remember, use a different password each and every account. If you use the same password, there's a 99.5% probability that hacker can steal all your information like in less than 3 minutes.
Yes,
Like each and every, for every account, like if you use the same password for your Netflix, Disney Plus or whatever, through that account, they can steal your identity.
Yeah.
Like every account, different password, no matter what you use.
Nice, okay, no, it's.
Yeah, just wanted to add about what you, Daryl mentioned about the debt consolidation. Yes, we do need to do the math because, recently I help out someone, we know, like a family friend. And, you know, when someone wants to pay off debts, the first thing they think is, okay, let me just all put it all together and just focus on one payment, right? Cause you don't wanna be like paying 20 different things. But then, the point is, there are fees associated with that, right? So maybe your debt snowball, you know, with your current situation is a better answer because of the fees associated when you do a consolidation into one account. So those are things that to keep in mind.
That's very tricky too.
When you're planning on how to pay off debt. It's not always the best answer to put it all together. Maybe it's just easier to work with what you already have a plan and stick to the plan, cause in the long run, you're gonna save money.
But I agree with you because,